Boop.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Nicole from SewGnar Sewing Patterns, and this is
Juno.
And this is my very special niece Juno, and we are here today for another throwback in the SewGnar Sewing Patterns series. And in today's video, we're learning how to make the
wallet. The tall one, but I calling it purple one.
the purple tall
One.
the purple tall wallet. Here, scooch back here. So we are making the tall wallet in today's video, and in the video, what color is the cork? Purple. And you can get this cork from Fabric Funhouse. Use code SewGnar10 for 10% off your first order. And the features of the pattern are, do you know what this is called on the back?
The zipper.
The zipper. There's one zipper. And what do you put inside zippers?
Cards.
Coins. You can probably put cards in there too. Okay, you want to open it?
I want it.
So everything closes with a snap tab. And we're gonna, so you're gonna hold it up like this. You can hold it now.
Can this be mine?
We'll talk about it. So let's get a little bit closer. So there are 10 recessed card slots here, and then there's one ID pouch, and then 2 cash or undercard slots that fit checkbooks or full-size cash bills, all that jazz. It's pretty straightforward. Fantastic beginner wallet. Perfect for those that are a little bit nervous about trying recessed card slots. There's nothing to be afraid of. I promise you, even Juno could do it. If at any point you are liking this video, please give us a thumbs up and a comment down below. Not a thumbs down, a comment down below. Thumbs up or a comment down below. And as always, be sure to subscribe and press the bell so that you are the first to know whenever my videos go live. We'll see you at the end of the video. Bye. Material overview. As you can see, I am using cork. This is eggplant. This is from Fabric Funhouse. Use code SewGnar10 for 10% off your order. I have both of my card panels here. I have A and B, and I've already gone ahead and cut out my lines. Now, if you want to, you can punch holes at the end of each line. It's totally up to you. It doesn't really make a big difference design-wise, but some people prefer the look of that. The only thing that I will say is that if you are going to punch a hole, make sure you punch a hole right on the end of the line here. You don't want to punch a hole outside of the end of the line, or else it's going to make your card slot very wide and higher chance of losing your cards that way. So yes, cut out A and B. I've already gone ahead and added my logo here. On this one, this is where your ID window is. And I wanted to show you, if you save this section of your ID window and then just cut out a second one, there is your snap tab right there. So that's a great way to utilize that piece of scrap. I do like to put some interfacing here on the inside of my snap tab. So I cut out a piece of Decaville Light, just slightly more narrow on all sides. For our magnetic snap, I'm using just a regular magnet snap, so I've got all of that right here. The only other piece of hardware that you use in this is going to be zipper. You can see here I'm using a pre-made number 3 zipper tape. You can use whatever you'd like, whether you want it to be number 5, number 3, zipper by the yard, or pre-made like I'm using. You just need to be able to cut it down if it's wider than the panel itself. Make sure you have one sassy cat that does not follow directions. I have my vinyl ID window, and you can see that I punched a thumb hole here. There are several different options and ways to do this, but I personally just use a leather hole punch, and I use a hammer to punch out a perfect oval instead of trying to cut it by hand. I have my ID window backing, and I am using, this is, I think, the water-resistant cotton from Lauren at Mormino, so it's nice and thick, so I opted to omit the interfacing, but if I was using 100% cotton, I would definitely interface this with Decaville Light. Here are my 2 main panels. The one that has the zipper box cut out, this is the exterior, and this is the lining. The lining has nothing on it. It stays just as is, but our exterior, again, the zipper box is cut out. I have gone ahead and added a thin layer of Mod Podge here to seal those edges. And then on the back side, you'll see that I have marked my magnetic snap and then where the actual tab itself goes. Now, I used my acrylic templates to cut out all of these pieces. It made marking my cut lines so quick and easy. I also offer SVG files as well if you have a cutting machine. Lastly, We're going to need some card slot material. I'm using cambric. You can get this from most fabric stores, but I also love using landscape fabric, and with it being springtime, it is readily available at any homeware shop. It looks just like this. Don't overthink it. It's literally the black weed barrier fabric that you put down whenever you're adding flowers in your garden to stop weeds from growing through. I love that stuff. You get so much of it for not a large amount of money, and it's very similar to cambric, which tends to be a little bit thicker and pricier. Now, before we get too far into this, if you hear pitter patter of rain, that is because it is gently raining right now and it sounds so nice, and I have my windows open, so that is what that is. So just enjoy that ASMR. You'll see as far as prep work goes, I've already gone ahead and I've added some double stick tape around all of my cut openings here. So on this card panel that does not have the ID window, I've put a piece, I've put a piece of tape above and below every single card slot line here. You can see it does not need to go the whole length of the cut line. You just need enough to hold your card slot material in place. So add tape there. I've added tape around my zipper box. You also can use glue for this as well. But on this piece here that has the ID window box opening, you'll notice that I skipped the first line here, and that is intentional because after we put in our vinyl ID window, then we need to attach our vinyl ID window backing, and that is actually going to go up and around this first card slot here. The reason we leave that card slot open and we encase it with this vinyl ID window backing is so that it is a functional slot, and that is where the ID will go, is in this first line here. And then a note about the card slots. When we're making them, you're going to see me use my recessed card slot template. This has a vertical layout line as well as a horizontal, and it's see-through. I love using these in all of my patterns. These are available on my site. If you want to use, or if you want to purchase one of these, I have blue and kind of a darker green here. The link will be down below, but if you don't have one of these and you don't want to get one, that's totally fine. Just be sure that you've printed out your accordion fold template that comes in the printed pattern. Next up for prep work, we need to add the portion of our magnetic snap. We're adding the male portion to one side of our magnetic snap. So I have a washer and the male portion side. I'm going to use my pen to mark out the center and mark my placement here. The pattern piece has this as well if you don't want to just eyeball it, but I tend to just eyeball it. I have a lot of experience making this pattern, so I'm not nervous to do that. But all that said, go ahead and get the male portion of your snap attached. So throughout the project, you will see me go back and forth between double stick tape and quick dry glue. I like this Beacon Fabri-Tac. I've been using this for years now. It dries clear, it dries almost permanent, but the best part is it dries very, very quickly and it doesn't gum up my needle. So this is my preferred glue. You use whatever you want, but I do suggest if you're going to be using glue for most of your adhering throughout the process, then make sure that it is quick dry. So I've got my magnetic snap added. And then now on the wrong side, I'm adding my stabilizer here, just like so. And then I will glue these two wrong sides together. I like to use glue when I'm gluing stuff like this together because it gives me enough time to shift and move things around to line up all of my edges. Whereas if you use tape in this particular application, you're gonna have to peel everything apart and then your interfacing can come off as well. And I just find that glue works better for this particular application. So you'll notice here that I have some overhang. That's totally fine. I'm going to sew this together first and then we'll come back and trim this all the way down. So in order to finish prepping this card slot panel, we need to peel the tape or apply some glue all the way around the ID window opening like you see on mine. And then you're going to lay your vinyl in that opening. It should have about 1/4 of an inch overlap all the way around every edge. Next, go ahead and grab your zipper panel and your zipper and do the same thing. Let's peel the tape And then we're just going to inset our zipper into this opening here. I like my zippers to open from the left. And because I have so much to work with here as far as zipper tape goes, I'm going to get it away. I'm going to move it away from these stoppers over here, just so that I don't have to worry about stitching through those metal chunks whenever I'm sewing everything. So whenever I get my tape nice and flat, I'm going to center my zipper tape inside the zipper box. Okay, so we have both of these two, and then I've got my, well, Druzy has my snap tab under her. Ow, ow, ow. Druzy, come on. Oh my goodness. Okay, ow. Okay, so we're going to bring all three of these over to the machine along with our card slot template or your printed accordion slot template and your card slot material. I am using a Mon Tech 70 thread from Wawak, size 4 stitch length and a size 18 needle. And I'm going to go ahead and get started by stitching around all of my edges of my snap tab. I'm going to toss this back over to the other side of my table, and then later on we'll go around and trim this up. Next, I'm going to grab my ID window panel, and I'm going to stitch 1/8 of a seam allowance around the entire ID window opening. All right, so I've got my ID window all stitched around. I pulled my thread to the back and tied off, and I left a little bit of a tail that I'm going to tape out of the way here in a minute. But first, I need to do my dummy stitch. Now this is underneath this very first open line here. I like to stitch from the beginning to the end so that it's a nice cohesive look whenever we stitch all the card slots into place. If you have a hard time telling where to start and stop on your lines, you can use some washi tape or chalk marker or friction pen to mark so that each stitch line is nice and even. And then of course you also have the choice to pull to the back and tie off every single card slot. That's totally up to you. I don't think people really notice when you don't tie off and if you just backstitch, but you know, you choose what you want to do here, but because I've already started, I might as well just go with it. Okay, next we need to attach our ID window backing into place here, so trim any threads, and then you can use glue or tape here, but either way, you're going to put it above the first card slot opening, so up here, down, across the bottom, and then back up. And then if you have directional fabric, make sure that the top of the fabric is facing the top of the panel up here, but you just need to tape or glue this into place all the way around that entire opening. Now I have a little bit of excess tape down here, and that's okay. It'll come in handy later on, but while I'm making my card slots, it might be a little bit of a pain in the butt, but that is okay. Now that we've got this stuck into place, this is what it looks like from the front, and if you need to double check, you can just try out your card slot here and just make sure that your card is going to fit in and show exactly how it's supposed to. Once you've confirmed that, now we can add a piece of tape underneath that first card slot to give us something to adhere our card slot material to. So it should look like this now. You should have one up top and then the 4 pieces which will become your card slots. So to get started on the card slots, I'm just going to peel off that first, the lowest card slot tape, the paper off of that section, and grab one short side of my card slot material and center it and overlap it about 1/4 of an inch, 3/8 of an inch from this first cut line here. Once I get that in place, I'm going to flip, and then we're going to stitch just under what is technically the second card slot. This will be making the first card slot though, because the first cut line actually goes to the ID window. So if you hear me refer to this as the first card slot line, that's why. It's because technically speaking, it's the first actual usable card slot. And so just like before with our dummy stitch, we're going to stitch across from the beginning to the end, and remember to tie off or back stitch well. Okay, once you get that finished, what you should see is the panel should look something like this. You need to take your excess, your leftover card slot material, you're going to pull it back down toward the bottom of the panel and kind of pull on it, apply some tension, create a nice finger press here. And then being careful to hold everything down and out of the way, you're going to grab your accordion fold template, and we are doing vertical card slots. So we'll be using this vertical line here. You're going to match up the dashed line on the actual cut line, on the actual opening here, not the finger press fold. Align the dash onto that open cut line. Once you get that, then you need to fold the card slot material up and over, hold it in place, and slide the card slot, the accordion fold template out of the way. And then using your other hand, peel the tape off of the next card slot, and then fold your card slot material back up, keeping everything centered. And then just like before, apply pressure so that the card slot material sticks. Once it is nice and firmly in place, we flip the panel back right side up. And then just like before, we're going to stitch, but this time above the next open card slot. You want to make sure that you're not skipping card slots on accident, because what happens is then you negate an entire card slot. You won't be able to use it. So just make sure that you're going up to the next one and not skipping it. I'm going to give myself some longer tails here because I'm giving myself a challenge with how short I've been leaving them. And then from the top, I'm just going to stitch across just like before, pull to the back and tie off. Okay, so we're just going to repeat that same process by folding the card slot material back and out of the way, finger press it, line up the dash line on the cut line, fold up and over to get your placement, slide the card out, and tape this into place. Alright, so now we are to the last card slot, and I can tell because I need 4 loops and right now I have 3. So we need to create the last card slot, and we're going to do everything the same except we are not going to add any stitch lines here because we will stitch this excess material into place whenever we do our final construction. So we're going to do the same process of folding back our card slot material, lining up the dash line on the cut line, creating the loop, peel the tape backing and stick it into place. But now what we're going to do is just trim off the excess. So I just kind of pull away from the tape until it starts to resist, create a nice folded edge here, and then trim off my excess. And then this is what it looks like from the back side. Now you'll notice that I left my tails long whenever I tied off. Sometimes I do it, sometimes I don't. I don't know, today just felt like leaving them long. But what I'm going to do now, I like to tape all of these loops down and out of the way. It just makes it a little bit easier to work with everything in the next couple of steps. So grab some tape and just put a piece right down the center of the whole panel, like so. Before I peel the tape though, I am going to finger press. I'm going to fold this entire panel in half and finger press so that my cork knows kind of where it's going whenever I'm ready to stick that. So you just fold it in half so you have wrong sides together. Now that I've got a nice finger press, I can peel my paper. And usually what I'll do is I'll wrap my tails along to the back and then stick them in the tape as well. Just scoop them all up. And tape them just like so. And then if they're just like crazy long, you can trim them, but it's up to you. Some people like to leave the tails long just in case the knots come out. Then you know that the stitch line isn't going to get lost. It's up to you though. Just another option of ways to do things. So once you get everything nice and neat back here, what you're going to do is fold your panels in half, lining up all of your edges as best as possible. Now if you want to, you can add a piece of tape here on the edges as well. You just want to be sure that you're not taping over your card slot edge down in here. But once you get it taped where you want it, what we're going to do is we're going to stitch up the folded edge to complete this card panel. So just like we completed these card slots up here, I'm going to emulate the same exact steps and work my way up, starting down here at the very bottom card slot on this opposite card panel, and work my way all the way up. Last step in our prep is we need to stitch around our entire zipper box. So I'm going to stitch using 1/8 seam allowance. Okay, so now all of the pieces individually are ready to go. So let's finalize everything. I'm going to peel back just the top edge of my cork to trim down my zipper here. I am leaving at least 1/4 inch, if not a touch more, on the tails on the back side here, just to give it some space whenever the wallet's being used and it's full of coins. So the last thing we need to do for this panel here is we need to install our remaining magnetic snap. So using the circle that I marked earlier from my acrylic template, I'm going to attach this side of my snap here. And of course, if you don't want to use magnetic snaps, you don't have to. You can use any sort of snap here that you have on hand. Double cap, rivet snap, spring snap, you know, whatever. You'll just need to install it accordingly. All right, so this guy's ready to go. And now we will trim up and finish off our snap tab. Like so. And then to attach it to this section here, I'm going to just put a piece of double stick tape in between these two demarcation lines. And then I know that it's exactly where it needs to be. You do want to make sure that the snap is facing up with the wrong side of the panel facing up. And I'm overlapping it about 1/4 of an inch or so. You just want to make sure that everything's nice and straight and that it's all where it needs to be. You can do a test fit by folding the bottom and folding this down and making sure that everything is nice and lined up. And if you need to make adjustments, now is the time to do that. Next up, we need to trim and finalize our card panels here. And so I do like to add some tape or glue in here just to keep everything nice and taut whenever we're top stitching it later on. So dealer's choice, you can use whatever you want. I'm going to use just a quick strip of 1/8 double stick tape just down this entire side here. Okay, now that we have these two ready to go, we need to attach them to our lining panel. And now be aware of your placement here because one side measures 1/4 inch taller than the other. So make sure you pivot it until everything matches up height-wise. And so we just need to put these two panels here, attach them however way you are comfortable. And now the goal here is to have everything lined up perfectly, but if it's not, that's okay because we can trim down and make adjustments as needed before we attach the lining to the exterior here. You'll notice I have this funky overlay or overlap down here, and it's not the cleanest on this side, but that's okay. I'll show you in just a second how I clean that up. Because I used glue, I want to give it some time to set up so that it doesn't shift around on me anymore. If you need to, you can add some clips here to lock everything in place while you wait for your glue to dry. All right, once your glue is all set up, this is where we want to trim down this panel before we attach it to the exterior. So I'm gonna just go around and tighten up all of my edges. If you want to, you can look from the wrong side. You can see there's a little bit of overhang right there. So I can, instead of trimming the entire panel, I can just trim off that section here that's overhanging, and I'll do that all the way around. Okay, once you get it trimmed up to your liking, what I like to do now is match my beveled corners here, and I'll use my curated corner template that I made with Heartwood and Hide to do that. So I'm gonna use my 3/8 inch section here and just work my way around cutting all 4 of the corners. All right, now's the time that we attach the lining to the exterior. I like for my ID to be on the right side, which is right above the zipper pocket. There isn't anything against the rules saying that you can't have it go this way, so you choose your orientation. But again, you just need to ensure that you've got the right measurement going with the right direction. So what I'm going to do is add some glue around. I like to add the glue on my exterior, so I'll start up here. And I'm adding a healthy amount, but nothing crazy. I don't want it to seep out the side edges. But something to consider here is we need all of this area to stay open, so that way it's a functional coin pouch. So I just put glue all around these other sections here. Obviously, I didn't measure it. You can certainly measure if you want to. The coin pouch boundary box is on the pattern piece as well. And so working from the right-hand side where my snap is, I line that edge first and then I work my way over. Because at the end of the day, we can trim up these 3 edges, but because of our snap tab, we cannot trim this one up anymore. So I try to be as precise as possible on this right-hand side. And again, this is why I use the glue here, because you can see how I'm just able to like kind of push on it, apply some pressure, and I can move all of the panels until they lay how I want them to. And you can easily unpeel it, unstick it if you need to, and kind of do more maneuvering and shifting around. All right, and then once I get it where I want it, I need to trim up these corners again, trim them off so the exterior then matches the lining. And I'm just laying the blade right on the thick edge here and using that as my guide. Okay, then we're gonna go to the machine and we just stitch all the way around all 4 edges. And then what I'm going to do is on this side with the ID window, I'm just gonna follow this fold here to close up that coin pouch back there. Now on this final construction, don't forget to move your zipper pull out of the way to give yourself some more room whenever you're getting near this section of the wallet. And then I also like to add some back stitches here wherever all of these pieces meet up. And again, you probably notice I have some overhang here, and I'm not super concerned with it because I'm just going to trim it down after I get done stitching. And then also adding edge coat and edge paint is going to really solidify my edges, and it's going to camouflage any major discrepancies that I have. You can stitch from the lining side up or from the exterior side up. I like to do the exterior because of this snap right here. I want to keep my eyes on where that's at all times, so that way I have control of it not getting stuck here and making my stitches get wonky. And so you can just feel the thickness change on this inside. And so I start right where all the panels meet. And now I'm bumping in a little bit more than my 1/8 seam allowance just to give myself some trim space in the event that I need it. All right, she's all completed. The last thing that I will do is go around, trim up all of my edges, and then go back and edge coat everything just to really seal it all up, make sure it all looks nice and professionally done. But here she is. Okay, come here.
Not again.
Not again.
Again.
All right, guys, we have made it to the end of the video, and Juno and I just want to say thank you for hanging out with us. We hope that you enjoyed making the
wallet.
As always, be sure to leave a comment, like, subscribe. You know the drill. Everything that you need is down in the description box below, and we really appreciate you being here. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you next week. No.